Okay. Okay. So uh, I want to introduce the class in a slightly different way today than I have done before. Um, so um, I want to start every class at 7. So I think it's good if you come earlier. It would be like if I went to see a play and the play started at 7:30. It makes me really nervous if I get there at 7:30. So I get there at 7:15. Okay. It really makes me nervous. And this has happened 2 or 3 times where I actually thought I was going to miss the play because everything went crazy and I didn't think I'd get there. So I would ask you to come 10, 15 minutes earlier. So, and if you can't come, just send me an email that says, I just can't come tonight, blah, blah, blah. And that's really nice. The link that you have is the same for all the classes. Okay. And I don't know exactly how to send a link for the recording for all the classes. So I'll send that link for the recording every week. I'll send it either later tonight or tomorrow. Okay. So it's really interesting to see it because actually some of the classes seemed like extra, extra, extra good. And I really enjoyed the recordings of them. Um, so the class stresses art appreciation as opposed to art history. These two things to me seem different. So art appreciation from my point of view is what is the charge that comes off a work of art? What is the pulse, the vibration? What is the aesthetics of the work of art? So in other words, we're not talking about whether this is the Queen of Denmark or this worker was underpaid working for a steel company or this woman didn't have the right to vote. Now, all those things are interesting, but from my point of view, and this is completely my point of view, the beauty and strength of a work of art I receive in a different way first. And then down the road, if I'm more interested, I'll say, oh, yeah, this woman was discriminated against, or this worker was part of a group of workers and they were fighting to keep their jobs. Okay. But the main thing to me is what is that oomph that the art has. So this kind of thing could be taught in many different ways. And so I am really telling you, this is my personal way of opening this up. And it may not be entirely right for you, but it is a point of view. And if I was going to, if someone was going to a museum or going to an exhibit, I would tell them exactly what I'm telling you. It really wouldn't make any difference. It would be the same exact thing. And the problem with this is saying too little, and the problem is saying too much. If you say too little, if you say too little, if you say too little, you're really not engaging the art or the artist. And if say too much, you're killing the art and the artist. Okay, you're doing too much. You're not allowing the viewer to finish the art or to have their point of view. It's as if, I'm sure you've seen this, a docent brings a group of students or a group of people into a room in a museum, and before they even can look at a painting, the docent is describing exactly what is going on in the painting. Okay, that's too much, too much. So ideally, it would be great if you brought a group of people to a room in a museum and said, just wander around for 10 minutes and then come and meet me in the middle. So you have your take, your point of view, and then you could say, hey, look at this, think about this, so forth. So the problem is saying too little, problem is saying too much. Um, this is my phone. I don't understand how to use it. It's on. I don't want to turn this off. Okay, so in the next week, the class will be on Manet and Degas because it's timed with an exhibit of Manet and Degas at the Metropolitan Museum. The week after, that's 2 weeks from today, the class is on Schiele, Egon Schiele, and Bonnard. So those 4 artists make a group, and the class after that, which is 3 classes from today, I will ask you to write or present something on 2 of those 4 artists. And I'll tell you more about that in an email. So I don't want to take up a lot of time with that today. But if you're looking ahead, the next class is Manet and Degas. The class after is Bonnard and Schiele. And I linked these together because I thought that they all had a different way of addressing the figure. And they all had a different way of drawing and painting the female nude or the female period. So I thought that was interesting. Now, I would like you to introduce yourself tonight, and I will introduce myself. But because I'm a little concerned about the time, I thought to put together a grouping of images for the whole term. So I'm going to switch the screen. If I could figure out how to do this, I'm going to switch the screen to this screen. And I'm just going to go through this fairly quickly. So this is painting by Manet, which is going to be in the exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum. I will, just by chance, I'm going there tomorrow morning to see this. But this is a very unusual painting to be present in New York City. I think this is the only time this painting has been shown in New York. And this is an amazing painting. I think it's been outside of Paris maybe 2 or 3 times. And so you're in for a treat seeing this. Manet's dates are 1832 to 1883. Now, I'm giving you the dates not because the dates are super important, but sometimes it's interesting that this artist is earlier than you would think or later than you would think, or it's connected with a group of artists of a certain date. So it's not really so that you should know um, a particular date. It's not super important. Um, the next one is Degas, and this Degas' dates are 1834 to 1917. So that's very interesting, 1917. So that's much later than I would have thought, 1917. And this is a painting that he does called the Bellelli family. And this is a big, major painting. And I cannot get over that this painting got out of Paris. So this painting is in the exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum. And this painting probably will be an amazing pair with the Manet painting that I just showed you. Okay, so this is Bonnard. Bonnard. Bonnard's dates, this is very interesting. His dates are 1867 to 1947. 1947. So he is kind of like impressionist, post-impressionist, but lives to 1947. This is amazing. So he and I will say something more about him when I introduce myself. Okay. So then the next one is Schiele, Egon Schiele. His dates are very interesting. 1890 to 1918.
Yeah.
He lives to be 28 years old. Okay. Egon Schiele lives to be 28 years old and is an amazing artist. Now, I remember looking at this painting, I believe in Vienna, and I was standing there looking at this painting with Renee, my wife, and she looked at me and she looked at the painting and she grinned and she said to me, you know, you can just about smell these people. Okay, so this one is by Max Beckmann. Now, there is an exhibit that is opening at the Neue Gallery of Max Beckmann. So that's why I chose him, because if you live close to New York, or if you want to travel to New York, you can get to see some of these paintings in person. Most paintings in person look better. Sometimes they look worse, but most paintings look better because they reverberate better. They have more aura, more insistence in person. But every now and then I see something and it looked much better in reproduction. So this is Max Beckmann, and his dates, this is very interesting. His dates are 1884 to 1950. 1884, born in Germany, dies in 1950 in New York City. Okay. So then combined with Beckmann, I thought to add two artists. This is Felix Nussbaum, 1904 to 1944. So 1944, Felix Nussbaum, German artist, dies on the last transport going to Auschwitz. So I thought to link him up with Max Beckmann. And the third German artist in this trio is this artist, whose name is Christian Schad, S-C-H-A-D, Christian Schad, S-C-H-A-D. So Christian Schad, his dates are 1884 to 1982. That's what you call a long life, 1884 to 1982. This painting is a sensational painting. It is richer and has more color in it. I could only find this reproduction of it. I like this painting a lot. So this is Christian Schad and a model. Okay, so then after this, after the German artists, you'll present, and then the next to the last class, I thought of three photographers. So this is the first photographer, which is Cartier-Bresson, Henri Cartier-Bresson, Henri, Cartier, Cartier, Cartier dash Bresson, Bresson. Cartier-Bresson, also a very long life, 1908 to 2004. French, and this is another French photographer whose name, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. His name is Brassai, Brassai. Does anyone speak French? Could they tell me if the pronunciation is correct?
I don't really speak French, but it sounds like it is correct.
Okay. So Brassai, 1899 to 1984. And the last photographer is this one, and this is August Sander, 1876 to 1964. This one German, the other two photographers French. This one German. I'll just say one thing about August Sander, and then I'll get back to him later in the term. August Sander did a very ambitious series of photographs, which goes by the title of something like A History of the German People. He had different categories, like workers, like farmers, peasants, all different categories of German workers. And he went around Germany doing this astonishingly ambitious series. But it's more than a document, it's very artistic. So we're going to go back. I did here. I want to go back to the other. Oh, how do I do this? Hey, Renee, I'm sorry. Just take a second. I want to go back to the other screen. Renee, how do I go back to the other screen? From here back. Oh, okay. So now I just want to go and introduce myself, and then I'm going to ask you to say something about yourself. And I think this is a very good way to start the first class, because then you'll understand where everyone's coming from, what point of view they have, or what prism in part they have. So what I'd like you to do is say your name and then say either what you do or what connection you have to the fine arts. I like it, I do it, I write poetry, I am interested in music, I am involved with music, something that links you to art. And then I'd like you to say one exhibit or one book or one poem that you encountered in the last 4 or 5 months that you were super excited about. So I'm going to start and then I'll call on various people. And I would like to make sure that everyone goes. So, so I am Simon, and I'm working on a very large painting now, which I am very into, very excited by. And all I do is sleep, dream this painting. When I am in bed, I look up at the ceiling, I see the painting in the ceiling, and I see the colors on the ceiling vibrating all around. And the ceiling is starting to look like my painting above where I sleep. Okay, so that's what I do, and actually, I must say that I feel very fortunate that I'm working on this painting now in this particular period of time, which is very challenging. And I saw one exhibit that I was very struck by, which was an exhibit of Bonnard at the Aquavella Gallery. And why I was struck by it, I will explain when we speak about Bonnard. So that's my contribution. That's saying something about myself. I'm going to call on you. I'm going to call on you willy-nilly, and I I know you don't want to. Someone doesn't want to start. I know that's how you feel, but I know that this person I'm going to call doesn't mind starting. So, Carol.
Now I'll unmute. I said, yeah, I know it. I'm Carol Gerstle. I am retired. I was a labor lawyer for many, many years.
Oh, Carol, one thing I should say, let's keep it to about 2 minutes.
Sure. And what I do now is I love to travel. I am very connected to music, particularly jazz. I spend a lot of time listening to jazz, and I love fine art paintings, and I spend as much time as I can looking and understanding. And what have I just seen? Well, I just been in Japan, and so I've seen, I can't describe it except such wonderful, beautiful Japanese art, both modern and ancient. That's it.
Okay, great. Nick. Now, Nick, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather right now. My son gave me something. It's not COVID, but I don't know what it is.
Do you want to pass?
I can talk.
Okay,
So
good.
I'm a neighbor of Simon's, and I've been involved in art for quite a while. You know, studied art history, and I'm an artist, and a lot of art books. So pretty comprehensive. Their background, and I've found increasingly then when I think of the arts, I think of it as a sort of form of human expression which is connected to other creative forms, but which has its own particular kind of valence, you know, mute but very meaningful. And it's interesting is when I saw an exhibit this summer of Munch, Edward Munch, up at the Clark Art Museum, and I'd never really been a big fan of Munch. And yet this time I kind of let myself be sort of immersed in his sensibility. And it was incredibly moving, really quite incredibly moving. Yeah. So that was the exhibit that meant something to me. And as far as a book, I went to get this T.J. Clark. Highly recommend him. Wonderful art historian.
Well,
He's a sort of frustrated socialist / humanist, but he does really deep readings of paintings. He's very alert to visual details.
that's great.
And connects it to larger meaning. And I think he's wonderful.
That's great. So if I could just say this, keep it to about 2 minutes, and one thing that you saw or were impressed with. If you have to do 2, it's fine, but just keep it to around 2 minutes. So, Rita.
Yes. Oh, Rita Knox, and I am a former neighbor of Simon's. I taught high school English for many years, maybe 15 years, so I have an appreciation for literature and poetry. And I also dabbled in photography in my 20s. I had a dark room and sold a few things. I got away from that as I got older because life just became more complicated. But I appreciate all the arts. And right now I'm living, as I told Simon, Little House on the Prairie. This past year, we're all the way out at the end of Long Island, and not too much art stimulation out here, but I did get to see something wonderful at the Southampton Art Center. I don't know if he knows the artist who's still alive. He's a photographer named Harry Benson. And it was a wonderful exhibit. It's called A Moment in Time, Iconic Images by Harry Benson. He was a photographer who chronicled most of the last 75 years. Famous people, the Beatles, all kinds of artists and models. And I went there just for the cultural exposure of a generation. And I came away appreciating his artistry. He was a wonderful at framing a photograph, at getting the lighting right. He was very precise. His timing was impeccable to catch the height of emotion in a moment. And I highly recommend it.
So I would just interrupt here at this point to just say something. This is a very bright group of people, and if you are alert, you should take some notes on the various things that people are talking about, because it's just fascinating. Like I was writing down, Nick, the name of that book is by T.J. Clark. What's the name of it?
Heaven on Earth.
Heaven on
Heaven
Earth.
on Earth.
Okay. So in other words, have a little notebook or some paper and take notes on things. And it's great if you can keep the class going through the week. In other words, look up Harry Benson, look up T.J. Clark, look up one of the artists that I spoke about, maybe Brazai, someone you don't know, and keep your curiosity going. Ron.
Hi, I'm Ron Costello. I'm in Washington, D.C. currently. I met Simon about a little over a year ago at a Library of Congress concert, and we got to chatting, and I took the course for the first time last year and enjoyed it very much. I'm just about a year, I celebrated the yard site of my wife, who passed away a year ago, and the two of us were very avid art collectors, and had a house in, we still do have a house in Corrales, New Mexico. But I'm still working full time as a psychiatrist here in Washington. I do photography myself, but also am a cellist, play chamber music, and enjoy many of the arts.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
The things which impressed me, I'm still reverberating from over the weekend, having my first viewing of the Godard film Pierre Le Fou, which is a fascinating piece of cinema. In terms of exhibitions, the one that really struck me and moved me a lot was an exhibition that is still up in the Albuquerque Museum of protest posters from South America in the 70s and 80s. It's a wonderful collection of work, and look forward to this seminar very much.
Terrific. So I don't know, I want to just quickly say this. I went to this concert, and Ron was sitting behind me at the concert. And is David here? I can't see you. Oh, yeah. So Ron was sitting behind me, and the concert was organized by David here, with the glasses and the beard here on my fourth row. And so the concert was a concert that was a suite of pieces that were composed by George Crumb. And one of the 10 pieces was, the pieces were works of art, fine art works of art, like Gauguin, Andrew Wyeth, Paul Klee. Anyway, one of the pieces that George Crumb used was a drawing of mine. Okay, so I went down to see this, and it was wonderful. A wonderful woman performed. Margaret Lang Tan performed it, and so sitting right behind me was Ron here, and that's how I met him. And it was quite an evening. Okay, so Len.
Yeah, hey everybody. Len Ross. It's lovely to see familiar faces and to see some new faces. I spend a lot of my day in numbers, so for me, art is kind of a retreat, a vacation. I love going to exhibits. I also paint and draw myself. Totally, no training. I just sort of wing it. I particularly enjoyed recently the O'Keeffe at MoMA. I had only previously seen, a couple O'Keeffes here, a couple O'Keeffes there. So to see so many of her works all in the same place was just overwhelming and a complete joy for me, because I just find her voice so extraordinarily unique. I would say her and Van Gogh are probably my, at the apex for me of the artists that I enjoy. And I'm going to sneak in just one recommendation of a movie I saw on a flight recently, which is called Woman in Gold, which is the story of a Holocaust survivor. I think she's maybe in her 80s, and she is fighting one of the big museums in Vienna to recover the Klimt work that her family commissioned to paint her end. I won't ruin it by telling you how it ends, but it's a fantastic movie, Woman in Gold.
Thanks. That's great.
Yeah.
Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Allenbrook. I'm retired principal of Brooklyn New School, which is a public school in Brooklyn. And well before I went into education, I did study the arts, fine arts, painting at Pratt Institute, and did art for many years, and then sort of went into education and stopped painting. And with retirement, I found myself painting again. So that's been really exciting. And also with retirement, I find myself teaching painting to the kids. So I am still working at the school, but in a part-time capacity. I was just there today teaching painting. So I would say the visual arts especially are very dear to my heart. So I'm very excited about this course. I think I'm going to talk about Edward Hopper. I think the retrospective that was there this summer, which I don't even remember, where was I? The Whitney, I think it was the Whitney, was an incredible retrospective. And he's such a beautiful realist, you know, the lonely American, and those paintings were exquisite. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue Bernstein. I'm still working full-time. I manage and represent musicians, which is why I jumped up from my seat a while ago, because one of my musicians is on tour performing tonight. I got a call and I thought there was a problem. There wasn't, I'm glad to say. So I spend every week, I go to theater, concerts, movies. I just live with the arts all the time. And the exhibition that really has stayed with me that I saw in the past year was Wangechi Mutu at the New Museum. The breadth of her imagination and her skill in every medium. It was collage, sculpture, painting. I went back to see it twice. I went to hear her interviewed at the Ford Foundation. I just cannot forget it. And I also love the New Museum. I go there frequently and I always get in conversations with some of the guards. They're wonderful. They're really so engaged with the work, and they also talk about their families, but I just find them so helpful and passionate about what they're doing. So I really love going there. It's always an experience.
Say the name of the artist again.
Wangechi, Wangeci, Mutu. In fact, I have a catalog here, Mutu. And really amazing work and incredible imagination. Yeah.
Okay, so Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan Rose. I live in New York City, and I'm an architect and about to retire shortly. I'm an old student of Simon's, dating back to, I guess, the early 80s. In his class, he had a class on drawing, and later on, I actually he moved the class to his studio, so I was there for a few years. I gave up art for a few years for some reason or other than going to museums, but I've kind of picked it up recently. I always wanted to paint, and I guess I've painted about, I don't know, 7 or 8 paintings at this point. And this is kind of what I want to do for my retirement. I recently saw, there was the tail end of an exhibit of Danish artists
Yes,
in the Met.
yes,
It looked like to me that they pulled together all of their, I think most of these paintings they have in their permanent exhibit, but not all together. And it's really been seen all together, which I thought was really interesting. And there was a variety, there were a lot of Rembrandt, but what really struck me were the few very small paintings by Vermeer. And it's unfortunate he'd only done, I think, 38 paintings, I think, in his lifetime.
yeah,
And they had 2 or 3 of them there. Some I hadn't seen before, but there was one that really struck me of a I don't know what she was. It was a woman. It was one of the many paintings that he's done where the light comes from the window on the left, on the left, and illuminates the space and the space that he's painted an awful lot of time. Anyway, I thought that was it was nice seeing that. I just want to add one last thing, that recently I saw a show on PBS. It was on Frida Kahlo, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
do you remember who the director was of that?
Oh no, I don't offhand, but it's on now, and you can watch it. I think at this point, streaming. Just check it out on PBS.
Okay, so is Dory here? Dory? Okay, well, maybe we'll come back. She'll be here.
She's there. She just isn't making any sound.
Mute.
Oh, Kathleen.
She's unmuting now.
Oh, did she come back?
I'm here. I was muted. I'm sorry.
Okay, where are you?
Well, I'm on my screen. I'm on the top tier, second one in, but it's not always.
Oh,
the same.
I see. I got you.
Okay, it's dark.
Could you say something?
Yeah. I'm a violinist, freelancer in New York, about to retire, I guess. Close, but I'm refusing to do it. I went to the Bonnard exhibit at the that Simon spoke of, which was wonderful. I thought I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm about to play for the ABT. That's all I have to say.
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
So Kathleen.
Yes, I'm Kathleen Taylor, and I live in Novato, California. It's about 20 miles north of San Francisco. And I lived in upstate New York in Ithaca and got into New York City pretty often, and I still miss it. And I envy all the museums and galleries all of you get to see. But I personally am an artist. And I've been painting, I think, 30 years, but I was I like to tell people I was born with Crayolas in my hand. So I've just been doing art either on the side or now full time. So, and since I don't have access to the kinds of museums you do, there are 4 main museums in San Francisco. And the one I've been to recently was the De Young, I think it was De Young, and they had a Sargent show of some of his paintings, watercolors and paintings from Spain. That's the only one I can think of that I have seen since the last time we were together. But there's a show of Botticelli drawings coming up very soon. And also, this is a very contemporary artist, Murakami. don't even know. Are you familiar with him? He does, I can't say that it's anime, but anyway, it's strange and I really like it. You should look him up. Muracami. And the other thing that I'm really interested in right now is data sculptures. So that's me.
Is what sculptures?
Data sculpture.
Data sculpture. Huh. Okay, so the next one I have is Susan. You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Now am I unmuted?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
I'm Susan Stickney. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I am a retired college teacher from St. John's College. One campus is here, the other is in Annapolis, Maryland. I met Simon and Renee on an ocean liner in 1971 when the two of us were coming back from very different Fulbrights in Germany, and both of us kept thinking of the other, but we never were in touch until his daughter came through Santa Fe last year. And I knew that he had a daughter who played the piano, and all of a sudden Simone Dinnerstein, as you know, lots of music in Santa Fe, there she was giving a concert. So I roared in and was at her feet, standing at the stage the minute her concert was over, and said, "I know your parents." And so that is why I'm here now. And I too am very envious of the museums you all have so close to you, those of you in DC and New York. I love going to galleries and spending a long time in front of very few paintings, but just to really sink in. That's one of my favorite things. But I appreciate the music that comes through Santa Fe, and the concert that impressed me the most recently was, do you know Thomas Dunford, a French lutist, and his wife, Léa Descendre, who is a beautiful, I think she's a mezzo-soprano or maybe a soprano. And I've never been taken by the lute. It always seems so large and cumbersome. This man just makes it so beautiful and very exciting. And so they're French, but they have been touring a lot. I guess right now they're in Japan, but they may come back to the States.
How do you spell his last name?
Dunford. Dunford.
Okay, okay.
This-
Now,
His father is an American.
he's
Right.
what?
Dunford's father is an American, but lives in Paris.
Oh, he's an American.
But lives in Paris, has for a long time.
Yeah, Susan, am I correct? Didn't you, after you came back from Germany, didn't you work at a school, like a friend's school?
Yeah.
Bernardsville?
Barnesville.
Barnesville, okay.
Only friend school in Barnesville, Ohio.
Yeah, that's the last address I had for you. I'm really glad that this is happening. This is great. It's really
Me too.
great.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Jim.
I'm Jim. I'm a neighbor of Simon's in Park Slope, Brooklyn, New York. My main activity in the arts is contemporary classical music. I'm on the boards of several organizations. I commission works. Occasionally, I guess I've commissioned maybe 30 works through the years. The most memorable artistic activity I've had for a while was a young composer friend of mine, Dylan Mattingly, he's 32 years old, wrote a 6-hour opera called Stranger Love, which was premiered in Disney Hall in Los Angeles in May, on May 20th. So I flew out to LA for it. And, it was just dynamite. And I'm the only human who actually was at the dress rehearsal and the performance. It was just performed once, and that's it so far, but it was brilliant. It made me happy. It made everyone else happy. The other thing that I'll mention is there's a new translation of the Brothers Karamazov by Michael Katz. Read it. It makes a lot of sense.
Can you say the name of the composer?
Yes, Dylan, as in Bob, whom he's named after, Mattingly, Mattingly.
Can you spell the first name?
Yes, Dylan.
Oh, Dylan.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Is Rebecca here? Rebecca? No. Okay, so Frank.
I'm Frank McGarry, and I was a colleague of Renee's at PS 321 for many years. And I also was a colleague of another person on the screen, Kristen Jordan, who I haven't seen in many years, and I'm so happy to see tonight. And also, in the interest of full disclosure, my sister-in-law, Cindy, is also on this screen. Cindy. So it's nice to see so many people that I know, and nice to meet all the people I haven't met yet. I'm a musician, and I was a music teacher at 321 for 34 years. And I've been spending a lot of time working on some songwriting. I love going to exhibits. I had the great fortune of a visit to Paris last spring and actually saw the Degas and Manet exhibit, unaware that it was coming to New York. So
wow, that's terrific.
Again. Just a recommendation, I just read a kind of a dense book about the country of Cuba, a place I did not really know that much about, but I feel like I should find out about it because one of my brother-in-law is Cuban, and it was wonderful to find out more about the history of where he came from. Yeah, that's about it. And then I'm in Brooklyn also.
It'll be very interesting for you to see the same exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum.
It was a big exhibit too, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to getting a second shot at it.
I am very surprised that some of these paintings are being let out of France to come to the United States. Very surprised. The Olympia in particular. Okay, thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
So next, Lucy. Lucy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucy Bardo Harms. Bardo was my professional name, and I still have it occasionally. I'm a retired cellist and viola da gambist. And I worked in New York for many years, and I live in the Berkshires now. I still go down to the city, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Manet Degas exhibit. And the most recent thing I did was to go to Iceland for a week. And the thing that was so fascinating to me was being in that land, in that landscape, which is really strange because it's volcanic. And but the sagas that go with it, these stories, it's just it just makes the place really something special. I mean, it's kind of special anyway, this island the size of Ohio up there. But anyway, that was the thing I did most recently.
I'd like to come back to that just in a bit, but I want to make sure that everyone goes. So let's see. So Cynthia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Pugh. As Frank mentioned, I'm Frank McGarry's brother-in-law, and that's how I know Simon and came to this group. And I'm very excited to be here. learn more about these exhibits that I'm hoping to come to New York and see. I live in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. And my connection to the fine arts really developed or came to fruition about 5 years ago when I became a volunteer docent at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. So I struggle with the dilemma Simon raised earlier all the time, how to say just enough, not too much, and when to say it. And believe it or not, we have hours and hours of training on just that. So I'm really excited to see, get new tools and approaches through this class. So thank you, Simon. I'm looking forward to it. The interesting exhibit I'll just mention, because Alan mentioned the Vermeers, was we had the good fortune of going to see the extensive Vermeer exhibit in the Rijksmuseum. We saw it during its last week.
Oh, really? Really?
We were able to go 3 times, and we saw the painting Alan referenced, which I think is a woman with a water jug, the one at the Met with by the window. Really wonderful painting. So that really changed, you know, our perspective in our lives seeing that collection. So we're grateful we got to go.
Well, you're very lucky to have gone to see that. I could have kicked myself because I didn't think to go.
We were very lucky. We bought, it was in part just being connected with these other docents. I bought the tickets, which were not too expensive for adult, $30 on a whim in February, just in case we could make it work during the last week. And luckily I had an enthusiastic family and we made it work. It was great. We saw it 3 times in the 4 days we were there. So it was wonderful.
Well, obviously you must really like art, obviously.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So Kathy Dawson.
Oh, hi, good. It's nice to be back again. I think this is my 3rd year with Simon, and at the suggestion of a former student of his, Mickey Sweet, who lives upstairs. And I'm very involved in the theater arts, so that's my primary interest, and that's what I know the most about. And the most exciting thing that happened to me recently was the performance of Diamonds with the New York City Ballet with Sarah Mearns. And we didn't know it at the time, but Russell Jansen was her partner. And it was the most breathtaking performance I've ever seen of that ballet, which I have seen many times in the 50 years I've been going to the ballet.
Oh.
It left us in tears.
Oh.
That's how precious and beautiful it was.
Beautiful.
And then we found out the next day in the paper that he was retiring. We didn't know he was seeing his last performance. It was just unbelievable, unbelievable. So it helps when you know a lot about an art form to really enjoy it. And so that's why I'm here to learn more about art. I did see I went to the National Arts Club. Does anybody know where that is? And they have an exhibit there of the American Impressionism, 1870 to 1940, of lesser known Impressionists. And I enjoyed it fully. I went with some friends and we made a day of it. And so that's about where I am right now. My life is incredibly busy right now. So I'm a little verklempt.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So David?
Did you call me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, hi. I'm David Rum. I live in Brooklyn now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a second. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I live in Brooklyn now, Grand Army Plaza. So I'm close to at least one other person who lives in Park Slope. I've been here for about two years or so, 3 years. I moved here from the Gold Coast in Manhattan, which is close to the museums. And I used to spend a lot of time in them, just soaking up everything the Metropolitan Museum had to offer, and the Frick and so on. They began to feel like clubs in a way. I've always followed classical music. I've never been able to put my ears around anything other than classical music. limited that way. Popular music, of course, is what most people enjoy somehow or other, and it just doesn't really fit into my life. My wife, who was French, passed away 10 months ago. But we used to travel to France together. We used to go. We were tremendous museum people when it was available for us. Well, and I've seen so much of museums, it's sort of coming out of my ears, eyes, nose. I'm sweating. So much of the art I've seen, the classical music I've heard. I think I get my aesthetic charges now from being out in the street and looking at people's faces and seeing the light come down from the sky and illuminate the street somehow or other from one direction or another.
David, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I like the way it ends with the light coming down. I like that. Okay, so we'll go on to the other David, which is David next to David.
Hi, I'm David Plyler. I'm a composer and a pianist, but I work at the Library of Congress, and I'm one of the producers for their concert series there. And so that's my what I'm doing most of the time. We are hoping that the government doesn't shut down in a couple of days because our concert series will be affected by that. So I don't know how much luck we're going to have with that, but we're hoping for the best. Just very quickly, I think I'm not able to get out as much as I would like to, just due to a spinal injury a couple of years ago. So I'm limited a bit in terms of what I'm able to see. But one of the things that I thought I'd share with you is that one of the great privileges I have working at the library is that I can sometimes show people different treasures from our division. We have about 25 million items in the music division. And among those, we have some that I pull out every once in a while, including a self-portrait by Arnold Schoenberg, which is it's kind of a expressionist, scary kind of painting, but around this was painted around the time of his second string quartet, which is one of the kind of major pieces in Schoenberg's output. And we have a lot of his manuscripts as well. And then the other one that often will show is a watercolor by Felix Mendelssohn of the Leipzig Gewandhaus, of the old one before it burned down. And so it's this tiny little watercolor, but it's part of this amazing album that also includes some of his songs without words and things like that as well. So it's kind of nice to find those things in the midst of our music collections.
Yeah, you would be directly affected by this government shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposedly illegal for me to do anything, but I have to keep, of course, in touch with our artists and try to, solve those problems.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But
yeah, Peter.
Hi, my name is Peter Darnell, and I'm a neighbor of Simon's. I befriended him by, I think the stars were just aligned one day, and we recognized each other and just struck up a conversation and started talking about art. And I think visual arts have been a part of my life since as far back as I can remember. I was a painter, then I was a graphic designer. Now I'm struggling between being a painter and selling real estate for Sotheby's International Realty here in Park Slope, Brooklyn, which is a trip in and of itself. So I just rented a studio and I'm really trying to get back into painting. I think the most amazing art experience that I had recently was I was lucky enough to go to Madrid with my wife, which is like an art smorgasbord with all the great museums there. And I think the Prado was the best art museum, if not the best museum I've ever seen. Incredible art there, was great. And I am now reading a book called Picasso and the Painting That Shocked the World, which I'm really enjoying. It's kind of a biography of Picasso, but it's all about, Bohemian culture around the turn of the 20th century. And they're just probably leading up to, his painting of Demoiselle d'Avignon, which kind of started Cubism. But so that's me.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Anne Marie.
Oh, hi. I'm Anne Marie Reddington. I'm a retired teacher from New York City. I live in Riverdale in the Bronx. And I was referred, I'm a student now of Kathy Firamasca, who teaches watercolor painting in different workshops mostly in Italy. So I've been to Italy a couple of times with her, and I'm continuing to study with her and others at this point. I went to the Manet Degas show on Friday because I'm a member. It was early membership time. And I'm in the midst of reading the catalog because it's very dense and there's so much to kind of sort out. The comparisons are, I really want to get to the idea of the comparison rather than just seeing lots of different pieces or just certain ones. So I'm enjoying reading the catalog, and I'm really looking forward to next week's class where we discuss it.
Anne Marie. Should I say Anne or Anne Marie?
Anne Marie is good.
Okay, so Anne Marie, there were 2 articles in the New York Times about that exhibit, and one is by Jason Farago, who's a critic, and the other one
is Holland Carter.
Holland Carter. I particularly like the one by Jason Farago, and I would recommend you're taking a look at that.
Thank you. I will.
I think he writes very well. So I recommend that.
Thank you.
Francis.
It's turned on.
I had to unmute myself. Hello, I'm Frances Stern. I live in New York City, but at the moment I'm in El Cerrito, California, visiting my daughter's family. And sorry, in the beginning, I was working on getting dinner ready, toddler time frame for everybody, but listening to everyone. So I hope to be able to attend all the meetings. I have a BA in art history and an MA in pure mathematics. So an unusual combination, I studied drawing with Zach Seeger, and I've been doing that at the 92nd Street Park for quite a while. I've been trying to get back to doing some watercolor painting, but I remain a total novice at that. I feel also very much what Simon and now others have said about just looking at a painting or any artwork and seeing what my reaction to it is, rather than reading about it. If there's like a plaque on the wall about it, I don't like to start by reading that. It's interesting to me going to museums at times with friends and seeing some only really want to read and barely look, some don't want to afterwards. I like to look at an exhibit for a while and then meet up with a friend and share, is there something that particularly struck you? Is there that you liked? Something that you disliked that turned you off? Some friends are not willing to do the dislike part. It's just interesting to see. But I think there's a lot to be learned when you have that visceral reaction to something, to think about what is it about it. Someone mentioned the Hopper show. Seeing that at the Whitney,
made me realize how important angles were in his artwork. I was completely struck by it was his use of angles that created the effect so much. And
Very well said. Very well said.
thank you. And outside my kitchen window in New York City, I see pieces of 7 different buildings, and it inspired me to make a drawing of that view because I'm looking at all the angles that the buildings make. So, so that was instructive to me. I never thought of the painting of Macomb Bridge in that exhibit struck me because from the Bronx, that was my view growing up as a child.
Really?
In the South Bronx there. So that we looked at it and we enjoyed calling it Macomb's Dam Bridge because we were not allowed to curse in our household, but we could say Macomb's Dam Bridge and get away with it. So I took a photo of it, sent it to my sisters to enjoy.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Jordan, and I live in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I am a preschool teacher. But as Frank McGarry mentioned, I got my teaching career started. I started my teaching career in Park Slope with Frank McGarry and Simon's wife, Renee. So that's how I got connected with Simon. And Frank, you should know that every now and then I come across a book that has your name written in it. Because Frank started teaching first grade and gave me all his children's books when he was finished with that role in his life. So I see your name sometimes still. But a lot of I've always long been interested in art. I never get in visual arts and other arts, but I don't get out as much as I would like. My favorite thing to teach in the classroom is art. If I can figure out a way to make that happen, I do. So a lot of my work with preschoolers is arts focused. And an exhibit I saw this summer that was fascinating was at the Guggenheim by a woman named Sarah C. S-Z-E. It was an installation and it was very weird, and I don't know how to describe it, but a lot of it was her process as well as the art. It was left intact, and it's gone now, I think, but I couldn't stop looking. And it was called Time Lapse. And apparently she has a permanent exhibit at LaGuardia Airport somewhere that I would love to see someday. It's just, it's multimedia, it's painting, it really interesting. Even if you look online, it's fascinating to see online.
Sorry, can I just ask
Sarah S-Z-E.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kristen, thanks. Reagan.
Hi, I'm Reagan Good, and I'm a poet primarily. I grew up in a house that was actually filled with Simon's brothers' art. My dad was good friends with Harvey. And the house was also filled with religious art from Mexico and Italy. So I grew up in a visual art household, but all of us were writers. I've always wanted to paint. Looking at a painting makes me want to paint, but I don't know what I'm doing. So at all. And I've just recently begun to try to make some visual art for a friend of mine who died. I teach at Pratt. I teach in the School of Architecture. And I was hoping that some of what I learn here I can bring to my students, though. You know what? They're very difficult to deal with. So they don't have a lot of references. We have almost nothing in common. And I've never experienced this before. So
could I ask you what you teach? What do you teach there?
I teach in the architecture program, and I teach them 2 classes, one a basically a lit crit class, a humanities seminar where we talk about place and space. And then we also have another class for them where they learn sort of architecture language so that they can talk about their proto-architectural objects in purely abstract terms and don't succumb to the need to have something be a door or a ceiling or a roof. So it's quite fascinating. I'm dealing now with visual artists, and so it's become more and more part of my life. And I really have recently simply just been in love with Arthur Dove's work. I've been looking at that a lot. No exhibition attached.
Your friend who passed away, her name is Saskia?
Yes, she was an excellent poet. Her name was Saskia Hamilton. And she was a poet here in New York. I'm in New York, I'm in Brooklyn, and Saskia just died this summer, but she published her 4th book of poems called All Souls. She was a professor at Barnard. She was an excellent poet, and I was moved to try to figure out how to make some art that didn't have words in it, because I was definitely out of them when she died.
I meant to write to you to ask you if you could send me an email and tell me something about your friend.
I will tell you more. She was the best.
If you could, if you don't mind, if you could, that would be lovely.
Only good vases break, they say. And
okay, thank you. Roxana, you're the last.
Oh no.
Best is the last.
Not the least.
The last is the best.
Oh, okay. I've been an on again, off again student of Simon's since maybe 2004. And I started as one of his, he used to teach, well, you don't teach it anymore, drawing. So for a few years I was a drawing student, and I began working full time as a parent coordinator, PS 372, the children's school. And then the best thing about being at a school is the children. And I moved over to teaching, and I teach 3K, pre-K, early childhood at CBE, about a block away from Simon. And the best thing about 3s and 4s is they're not quite representational drawers yet. So it's all process and intuitive feeling. And there was a play many years ago, 6 Degrees of Separation, and the person was lamenting how by 2nd grade it's over because they've learned how to copy, and they're copying their brothers and their sisters and their the kids next to them, so it's not amazing art anymore. But so right now I'm in the middle of that, seeing how children view the world, and they're unabashed, they're fearless. And I'll back up. Before I met Simon, for a dozen years, maybe 20 years, I was a graphic designer, had children. It wasn't family friendly, and went into education, and I'm still in education. It's lovely. And I've been a painter for off and on since forever. And the exhibit, like Hopper and Vermeer, would be right up my alley. But I was in Asheville, North Carolina with my husband about 3 months ago. We're a few years away from retirement. We're not there yet, but we're checking out places. Some of my family live in Austin, and so we know we could probably do that. But we were checking out Asheville, and there was a teeny tiny exhibit in the Asheville Museum on Buckminster Fuller that made me understand how math, architecture, art, it was just amazing. And it was so tiny, but so impactful. And it was everything from his just the language, and him just showing you what he thought with his angles. And he's the famous creator of the geodesic dome, which you see kind of all over the place now. but the dome, and then just math, art, STEM kind of all coming together. And it wasn't a big show, but it was an impactful show.
That's great. That's great.
That's it.
So I have two non sequitur thoughts. One is connected with Roxana. Well, my two thoughts are films that I've seen, but not one recently, one not recently, but the not recently film that Roxana reminded me of is a film that you may know of or may not know of, but it's I think a brilliant film. It's called Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control. Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control. And it's a film about people who are trying to be children, or people who are trying to keep their childhood alive. It's by a very brilliant director and writer named Errol Morris. Okay, I highly recommend this film. The second film I should have mentioned with the exhibit that I saw. This is the most interesting film I've seen recently, but I don't know how entirely you pronounce the name of the film. It's Synedocche, and I think you pronounce it Synedocche. Synedocche. I would have thought Synedoche.
Spell
but,
it again. Can
but
you
it's
spell it?
Synedocche.
I
What?
think it's synecdoche.
It is. It's synecdoche.
Yeah.
Who's speaking? Who's speaking?
Francis first and Rita after.
Synecdoche.
Yeah.
Synecdoche. Synecdoche.
No.
Anyway, it's a fantastic film. So this is good. This is the first class. I get to know some of you. You get to know some of you. You have an overview of the classes. And in terms of writing, some of you have problems with writing. You should take a shot at it. If it feels overwhelming, don't worry about it. You can just ad lib, improvise. But I think you should, if you aren't familiar with writing, take it as a challenge. Just take a shot at it. I will send you something about what I'd like you to think about in terms of the writing. It's great to meet you, and I'll see you next week. Okay?
Good night.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Really terrific.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
Simon.
See you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Great seeing you.
Bye.
Great seeing you. Nice
Thanks.
seeing you.
Bye.
Nice seeing you.
Good
And
night.
Susan, Susan, where are you? Oh, another time.
I'm still here.
I'd like to talk to you another time. Not
Okay.
tonight, but another time. Definitely. And Ron,
Me
great
too.
seeing you. Really great seeing you.
Good to
And
see you,
Lucy,
Simon.
Lucy,
Thank you.
send my best regards.
Sure will.
Okay? Send my best regards. Lucy, send my best.
Yeah, he was just here.
Okay. Nice seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you. I
Yeah.
saw it played, just recently, 3 weeks ago, I think. Oh, no, September.
Yes, that's right. I heard.
Yes.
And I heard it went very well.
Oh, did it? It was
Yep.
it was pretty much sold out. And I
Oh,
mean,
that's
we have a
terrific.
small space, as you know, but
Yeah,
it
that's
was
terrific.
wonderful. And
Terrific.
I've been in touch with her since. I see she's playing up at a concert in Boston in November at Terrazine Gala.
Yes.
I saw that she was doing it in the Smithsonian magazine, so I emailed her and I said, "What are you playing?" She said, "Oh, I'm just playing Schumann and glass." And so anyway, it's good keeping in touch with her.
Send a hug from me to your friend.
Yes, okay.
Okay? Okay.
Yeah, I'm so glad that Renee was there tonight, helping
Yeah,
out.
me too. Me too. For more reasons than one. For more reasons than one.
You just
I thought we were
disappeared.
going to explode. I thought it was going to explode.
Well, I know what you mean. I know I would have the
No,
same
I
kind of
mean,
trouble.
you know, on the one hand, it's amazing. Someone from Santa Fe,
Yeah,
looking at the person from Santa Fe,
yeah,
someone from California, I'm there. And then all of a sudden it just disappears.
yeah.
All right, listen, take care. Okay.
Okay, you too.
All right,
Good to see
bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.